Hello Internet, my name is Quinn and this is Blondihacks. Oh, as you can see, I'm on the road to the new shop at... Okay, look, obviously I'm not moving. I've got a lot of work to do setting up the new shop before I can give you fine humans another real video, so I thought I'd do a little Q&A on the new shop and the move and everything that's happening here in the meantime. I have an almost 4-year unbroken streak of posting every single week through holidays and illnesses and everything else, and well, I hate to break it if I can help it. So I'll do my best to continue posting here during all of this big transitional period. And you can see I've got some of the new shop unpacked behind me there, but mostly I'm shooting in here because I'm in a big empty shop in a big empty house, and this is the only place I have decent acoustics with which to record. So I've got some questions here from my fine patrons, and let's go through some of them. Here's one I get a lot. How much time do you spend cleaning and how do you keep your shop so clean? I think a lot of YouTubers get this question because, as evidenced by my fake driving earlier, all of YouTube is lies. And the short answer is that things always look cleaner on camera than they are in real life. Now, I do keep the shop reasonably clean. I tidy up a lot and I am pretty meticulous as I work. I treat machining the same as one does cooking or baking, which is that you clean as you go to keep things from becoming a disaster. But that's the short answer is I clean a lot and it's not as clean as it looks on camera. What notebooks do you use and how do you use them? I know that notebooks and journals are really popular among makers and engineers and so on. I'm actually not a big notebook user. You've seen a few of them on my channel over the years. Mostly what you see me doing is using them as sources of scrap paper. I don't really keep notes in a journal and refer back to it in any sort of way. My journal is mostly this YouTube channel. I've covered a lot of topics here that often I forget how to do later on, and I will go back and watch my own videos sometimes to remember how to do certain things. So I guess you all are my journal. How is Sprocket dealing with the move? Well, yeah, the things we do for love. Sprocket was definitely a challenge. You know, this was a very long distance move, as you saw in the previous video, and Sprocket can't fly for various reasons related primarily to her anxiety with confined spaces and how long of a flight it would have been. So that was not an option. So I actually drove her the entire way. We spent 3 days in the car together with her screaming 50% of the time. But honestly, it was much, much less traumatic for her than it would have been for flying. So it was pretty miserable for me, but it was the best thing for her, and that's what matters. And she's been settling in nicely, as you can see. Did you purge before the move? Now, it is traditional to go on a murder spree before any big move, of course. Oh, I see what he means. I did actually get rid of a lot of stuff, yeah. I mean, I have so much stuff, and I got rid of a lot of stuff, or so I thought. But I did not get rid of Johnny Mnemonic, the pinball machine, or the elliptical machine that I refused to let die. Those are both references to the blog, so if you're not a reader of my blog, you should go check it out. And let me tell you, the movers were not happy about that pinball machine. What was the worst injury you've had in the shop? This is a very delicate subject that I don't tend to talk about on the channel, but hey, we're doing an Ask Me Anything here, so I think what I'm going to tell you is the story that gave me my current position on safety. Now, my dad was really big on safety, and he taught me a lot about it, and he was always very careful about everything, and he instilled a sense of safety in me. But I had a very close call when I was a teenager that really set the tone for me safety-wise. I was doing a body lift on a Jeep that I had rebuilt, and I was cutting the body mounts for it. And the body mounts come in one long tube of rubber, basically, and you have to cut them to your desired length. And I was very young and very stupid, and I decided I was going to do that on a radial arm saw. Now, those things are already dangerous and absolutely the wrong tool for that job. And so I was pushing that stock through the saw, And of course, you know what happened. The rubber grabbed the saw and pulled that through very violently. And my thumbs, both of them, just missed that blade as my arms got pulled through with that material. So I came probably that close to losing both thumbs. And that was a formative experience, let's say. I was very, very lucky to have that close call, that little warning from the universe to take safety more seriously, and it happened at a young age, so I've had a full adult life of safety conscious behavior as a result of that little warning shot. So that's my story, and really since then I've had, I guess I've been lucky and also been careful, and I haven't had really any other close calls since. And that was about 30 years ago now, so fingers crossed, knock on wood. Have you ever been asked to make something that challenged your ethics? That's a really interesting question. I think the closest answer I have to that is that, like many of us, I get asked to make things for people quite a bit, but I will draw the line at making something that somebody else's safety depends on. You know, I'm not a real machinist, and this is all just a hobby for me, and I would have trouble sleeping at night if something I made was being relied upon for somebody else's safety. So that's where I draw the line. Got a lot of questions here in the general Sprocket milieu. People want to know more about Sprocket. How old is she? Where did I get her? How did she get her name? And so on. Let's see. So I got her when she was about 6 months old from a local rescue shelter, and her name just sort of came to me. Obviously mechanical in nature, and I like animals with ridiculous names. So her full name, for the record, is Sprocket HG Shopcat, and you can call her Sprocket for short. And someone also asks, does she only drink single malts? And the answer to that is, she drinks and eats anything because she is a garbage rat. What's the strangest tool or material a viewer has sent you? I don't know about strangest, but probably the coolest is that one of you fine humans sent me a big stash of titanium one time, and I have yet to use it in a project. I'm waiting for the right moment to bust that out, but I have a little secret stash of titanium. It's very, very cool. It looks and feels just like steel, but it's freakishly light. It's neat stuff. Have you ever considered doing an electronic lead screw upgrade for your lathe? I get asked this at least 4 times every time I do one of these Q&As, and the answer remains the same. I do intend to do it someday, and in fact, James Clow, my good friend who designed an electronic lead screw kit for lathes just like mine, actually sent me one of his boards, and I have it, and it's waiting to be installed, and I will get to it someday. Hang in there. This next viewer asks about the power requirements of the new shop. And yeah, this is going to be a challenge pretty soon here on the channel. My last shop, I was really spoiled. I had a sub panel already installed when I moved in, right in the shop, so I was easily able to add all the circuits I needed. I had multiple 20 amp circuits running around for all the power tools. I had a dedicated 40 amp circuit for the welder, a dedicated 60 amp for the electric car charger. It was electric Disneyland in there. It was awesome. This shop is the opposite. There are 3 outlets and 2 lights in here, and all of that is on a single 15 amp circuit. It's terrible. It's the opposite of Disneyland. I don't know, is there a theme park for like paying taxes or doing long division or something? Anyway, it's the opposite. It's terrible. So I'm going to have to get an electrician in here and do some serious electrical work, but I can make do in the meantime. I just have to turn the tools on one at a time. How have you seen yourself grow and change as a YouTuber over the years? Well, I like to think I've gotten better at this. I'm certainly putting a lot more hours into each video than I used to. I put probably 20 or 30 hours into each video at this point, just in the production alone, not to mention the shooting. This is a full-time job for me, so there's a lot of work that goes into every single video. Well, I mean, except this one. Obviously, I'm phoning this in because of the aforementioned delays. But yeah, I like to think I've gotten better at it. I guess you can watch my really old videos and be the judge. I struggle to watch my really old videos. I think they're terrible, but, you know, I hope you're all still watching. Are you 100% self-taught, or do you have some sort of formal training? I don't have any kind of formal trade school training in machining or welding or fabrication or anything like that. I'm self-taught almost entirely from the school of YouTube. I mean, I learned to do this by watching Adam Booth and, you know, This Old Tony and all the rest of the greats. I would say I also read a lot of the old machining books, especially the ones from like the early 20th century that were all, written for manual machine tools. Those old books are great. I read a lot of those. I read a lot of model engineering books, but mostly it's just, self-taught and, coming from a farming and mechanically inclined background. I've worked on cars my whole life, and growing up on a farm, you're surrounded by machinery, most of which is broken all the time, and you're having to fix things. So all of that knowledge, I think, maps pretty well to this kind of work as well. What are some of the changes and or unlocks you're excited about in the new shop? I know that everybody wants to know, when am I getting bigger machine tools? I get asked that question about 15 times on every video. And the answer to that is a very strong 100% unequivocal maybe. Yeah, the answer is, honestly, I just don't know. I might get bigger tools. I do have probably space now for some bigger machine tools. It's just a question of, do I want to dedicate the space to that, or do I want to use that space for more benches or more variety of machines or other, uses for that space? So honestly, I like the size of my machines. I don't feel especially held back by it. Mostly I'm building model engines. I'm building small things. So I pretty rarely feel that the size of the machines is hurting me in any particular way. And it makes you creative and it makes you a better machinist to work within those limitations. So I'm thinking about it, but, we'll see. Are you going the creature of habit route and keeping all the tools in the same layout, or are you going to move things around? Obviously, there's going to be some shuffling around because the new space is not laid out identically to the old one, but the broad strokes are going to remain the same, not just because I'm a creature of habit, but because it's actually worked super well for me. The layout that you've seen with the L-shaped bench and the lathe here and the mill here and the cabinets underneath, that setup for me has been really efficient and really has worked smoothly, so I'm going to keep that. Where I'm going to improve is the other tools that you don't see as often, and the reason you don't see them as often is because in my old shop, they were a hassle to set up and use. I didn't have space to keep the D-bit grinder out. I didn't have space to keep the bandsaw out. Those types of things, because I just didn't have room. And I've got a little more room here, and I've got a better layout here, so I'm going to have room to set up all those machines permanently. And so you'll see a lot more filming at those machines because I'll have better light everywhere and, all those sorts of things. So good things coming in that department. How much did the move cost? I don't talk a lot about financial stuff on this channel, but, a lot of people ask this, and the bottom line is the tractor trailer that moved me and all of my shop 1,500 miles or 2,500 kilometers, give or take, was $13,000 US, and that's for 10,000 pounds of cargo and a crew of 4 guys for 1 day at both ends to load and unload. And then everything else, all the costs associated with the travel and rental cars and boxes and bubble wrap and all the rest, that was all on top of that as well. But just the truck itself was about $13,000. So, think about that if you're thinking about a move like this. And, it's a great time to sign up to be a Patreon patron, just saying. A number of folks asked for an update on my position on carbide in the small hobby shop, because I've always said that high-speed steel, I think, is the best way to get started, and I think it's an essential skill set for hobbyists, especially because we have lower power machines with less rigidity, and high-speed steel is more flexible and, above all, less expensive than carbide. But you've obviously seen me using a lot of carbide lately on my channel, and I've slowly been incorporating more and more of it into my work, mostly for turning and mostly for steel. There are some really great carbide inserts that work really well on small machines, and some viewers helped me find some really good ones. In particular, the inserts that are spec'd for aluminum, they have a high top rake and a sharp edge on them. Those work really well in all materials on hobby lathes. So I've been using basically the same insert. Anytime you see me using a carbide insert, it's the same one, and I'll link to it below. They don't last super long because of the sharp edge and the high rake on them. They wear out pretty quickly, but they do a really beautiful job in all types of steel. So especially if I'm doing any kind of mystery steel or anything like that, these carbide inserts do a great job. So by and large, I still mostly use high-speed steel for most things, but you definitely see me busting up the carbide when I just need to do a bunch of heavy turning, and I know the carbide's going to do a great job. Talk a bit about hashtag not sponsored. Well, that started as just a way to show that, what you're seeing is my honest opinion on the tools and the products that I'm using. And, it's also turned into a bit of a joke, but it remains a reminder, a constant reminder, if you will, that anytime I'm talking about a specific product or specific tool, I have not been paid to say those things. I've never taken money from corporate sponsors or, tool companies or anything like that on this channel. That's not to say I've never taken free product. I have on occasion, and I'll always tell you when that's the case. A couple of the kits that you've seen me build were given to me by the companies that make those kits on the hope that I would then use them on the channel and show those kits being built. It's never been a requirement, and I'm still honest about those kits. My most recent steam engine that you've seen me building, the big one, that kit was given to me by PM Research and no strings attached. Obviously they hoped I would build it on the channel, but they didn't ask me to. And I've been honest about that kit. If it's got shortcomings, I've been honest about that. And where it's been really great, I've been honest about that too. So that's the way I hope to keep this channel. I'd like to keep doing it with your support and not the support of big corporations who, frankly, don't need free advertising on my channel, and hence, hashtag not sponsored. And the million-dollar question, why the move? Obviously, a move this big is not something you undertake lightly. This is something that I've been working on off and on for about 3 years. And the actual logistics of the move itself have been going on for about the last 6 months. The last 8 videos that you saw on this channel were actually all queued up. So I haven't actually been producing videos for 2.5 months now. And that's why there may be a gap coming up here. I thought 8 videos would be enough to get me through this move, but it may not be. We'll see. So it's a huge deal. So why on earth would I do something this big? It's a lot of reasons, I guess. The biggest one is family. I wanted to be closer to my dad, especially, who's getting on in years, and he's going to need help soon. And I want to be closer to him, and I want to be closer to the rest of my family as well. I've been a long way from home for most of my adult life, and so I want to get back. And I wanted to get somewhere where it's a little less expensive and a little easier to produce a YouTube channel and keep bringing you guys the best content that I can as often as I can. That's really a priority for me now at this point. So yeah, it's a lot of little reasons, I guess, and one big one, family. Well, that's all the questions I got time for on this little Q&A. I hope that there was something in there that was interesting, and if not, well, at least you got a bunch of clips of a cat walking around in an empty shop. So that's all I've got for you this week, and like I said, I'm going to try to keep giving you content every week during this transitional period. I can't promise I'm not going to miss a week here or there while I get the shop unpacked and all set up, but thank you for sticking with me. Thanks especially to my patrons who've supported me through all of this transition and honestly have frankly paid for this transition and are continuing to support me as I try to keep bringing you folks the best content that I can. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.